Philip Freid was born on May 7, 1928 in Lutz, Poland. He was named Pisek Friedenrosch. He was the youngest child of Ita and Horst Friedenrosch. His older siblings were named Leon and Bernice. Philip was only 11 years old when the Germans occupied Lutz in 1939. Lutz became a ghetto on February 8, 1940, but was not closed off immediately. Philip was 12 years old. The Lutz ghetto was closed off on May 1, 1940. In 1942, Philip's father Hertz died of starvation in the ghetto at the age of 53. In 1944, Philip was sent to Auschwitz with his mother, brother, and sister. He was 16 years old. On August 26, 1944, Philip and Leon were separated from their mother and Bernice. They believed their mother was immediately sent to the gas chamber. Philip and Leon were in Auschwitz for approximately 6 months. They then signed up to go to Flossenburg, where they were sent to a factory that made screws for bombs to be dropped on the British. They were liberated on May 7, 1945, Philip's 17th birthday. Philip and Leon later found out that their sister Bernice had been killed at Stutthof, where 6,000 women were shot 2 days before liberation. Philip and Leon then made it back to Lutz and rented out a small apartment. He then went to Berlin, Germany to attend a Hebrew high school where he was captain of his soccer team. In 1949, Philip, his brother, and his sister-in-law moved to the United States. Shortly after, Philip was drafted into the Korean War. After returning to the United States, he and his brother bought a luncheonette on Bainbridge Avenue. They later sold the luncheonette, and Philip worked for the United States Post Office until retirement. Philip Freid never married, so his nephew Henry and his children are Philip's only living relatives. I'm Glennis O'Shea. I'm a history major going into my senior year at Manhattan College, and I'm here to interview Philip Freid about his experiences during the Holocaust. I became involved with this project through the encouragement of my professor, Dr. Horn. As a history major, I love to learn about the past, but I wasn't really sure how I could use this knowledge of the past in a way that's interesting and relevant to today. Dr. Horn reminded me how many Holocaust survivors are still alive today, especially in the Riverdale area. I found this fascinating as someone who grew up in the Bronx and spent a lot of time in Riverdale as a child. So Dr. Horn suggested that I do some research about the Holocaust. As I learned more about the Holocaust, I realized how many survivors are still alive today and how crucial it is for us to hear them tell about their experiences while we still can. Philip Freid truly understands the value of an education. He wants students to be able to hear his experiences and learn from them. That is why he has finally chosen to speak out about his experiences during the Holocaust after remaining silent for so many years. Through this film, I hope to be able to preserve the memories of Philip Freid for generations to come. He has an impressive sense of optimism despite all of the trials and tribulations that he's dealt with throughout his life, that I hope can pass on not only to myself, but to everyone who has the opportunity to hear him speak about his experiences. Philip Freid's story is one that should truly be remembered and learned from. When and where were you born?
Poland, Lodz.
And what year?
1928.
What were the names of your family members that you lived with?
It was my mother's name is Ita, I-T-A, pardon me. And my father's was Hirsch. My brother's was Leon, Leib. Leib. And my sister's name was the Jewish name of, Brandl. But you could put on our thing, Bronca. And myself, Fischer.
What was your relationship like with your brother and sister?
Close, but a little bit closer with my sister. She was 6 years older than I am.
6 years older? Was your brother older also?
Yeah, my brother was the oldest. He was born 1916.
How did your family fit into the community in Lutz?
My mother, I think, was loved by everybody. So was my father. My father was a gentleman. Yeah, if I could go back, I would give up everything, even my life, to be up for a short time with them together. Not underground, alive, because I don't know, nobody came back yet from the other life to tell me that it's fabulous over there in heaven. It's fabulous. Nobody came back, so I don't want to go yet to find out. Maybe I'll find, naturally, find how it is over there, but any other way, no.
Can you tell me about your school when you were growing up in Lutz?
Yes, it was a private school, and it was a Jewish school. Not an Orthodox, but a regular, a regular school. But all, you were paying, all the requests were necessary, to help for regular school. We had, they were teaching us Polish, math, a little bit, history, but a lot of, Jewish history. But the Jewish history, we used to come special for 2 hours in the afternoon. Some that they were living far remained, in school, because from 5 till 7, there were only, there were Jewish religion, the books, all those things.
What kinds of things did you do for fun when you were a child?
We played soccer ball, but not with the ball. We had to play, with down the, I'll say Jewish schmattes, rags. It mixed up and sewed together with this, place. And if we had, a nice movie, what we call a cowboy movie, we were glad. For the kids, it wasn't too bad.
What role did your religion play in your life, especially going to a Hebrew school?
To be honest, I don't know. For one simple reason, maybe I was too young, to realize, what's supposed to be done. We were strictly what the teacher told you, to do. The teacher said, when you get up in the morning, or you go into the bathroom, when you come out, you got to wash hands. By Jewish people, it's considered, religious, but in real life, it's hygiene. That was it.
Was your family very religious?
No, I wouldn't say. They were religious. They were observing, the Saturday, and they wouldn't light up, a friend of mine, the girl, which she to the, I don't want to say how do you call it?
The superintendent?
The superintendent, yeah, the girl. She used to play with us together.
Was the girl the superintendent's daughter?
A daughter, yeah. She was, I think, my age.
Mm-hmm.
She used to come up to the house and just pull the switch up and light. So during the week, that Saturday, used to give her a nickel for it. And sometimes she wouldn't take the nickel. She said, I'm doing it for Philip. So,
And that's because on Saturday, Jews aren't allowed
to light, yeah.
Use
the electricity.
Yeah. Okay.
If it was lit up, you couldn't shut it off. You had to have, say, a non-religion one, or you'd have to have, like a Catholic or whatever it was, just to shut off.
Were there a lot of non-Jewish people in Lutz?
No, I think in Lodz was a lot of Jewish people, but it was a separate, territory. The only ones that you had over there, the non-Jewish, were the house keepers.
Did you experience any anti-Semitism from the few non-Jewish people that lived in Lutz?
No. I don't know. Maybe there were anti-Semites, or maybe not. But they didn't show nothing for one simple reason. They were working there, they were getting paid. If they're going to show, to tell to the boss, some kind of a bad, Jewish word, he would lose the job.
In 1940, they declared Lutz a ghetto, and they closed it off. How did your daily life change?
If I'm not mistaken, well, the minute the ghetto, closed, everybody had to be employed. not just, little stores, but factories. I worked for all kinds of chairs, a carpet factory. I couldn't remember, a carpet factory.
Mm-hmm.
And there were two places, and they were big. They were big places, and I registered, you had to register before everything, and you didn't think about anything else, but you done one thing, you were thinking it's to work. There were no Germans in that factory. There were, Jewish, people that were carpenters, before the war, experienced people, And we used to work about between 10 and 12 hours a day.
And you were about 10 years old at that point,
At
correct?
that point, yeah. Well, I was
12.
already about 12 years old, yeah.
And the whole point of all the work that you guys did in the ghetto, that was because the head of your ghetto, the head of Lutz, wanted everyone to be productive so that the Germans would consider you necessary for the war effort.
In the beginning, when we started, we were making little, beds for children, with those, you see them here too, the kids, they have a little bed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all, on sticks, like on sticks. That's what we were doing. And before that, we were doing, furniture. Yeah, for the Germans that needed the furniture, if they took money for them, we don't know. But we were making a lot. We didn't know if it was for German babies or whatever, but we had to do it and ship it. We used to make a couple hundred, in a month, in a week, because we worked 6 days.
And what exactly did you do? Were you assembling it, or?
No, I was working, on the machine that was making, holes. When you put on those sticks, the top had to have a hole, the bottom had to have a hole, and that's what it is.
Okay, so you helped run one of the machines.
The machines. I was on the machines, yeah.
Okay. And what were the conditions in the ghetto like when it first became a ghetto in terms of getting food and your freedom?
Before, the minute it started, the food was the first thing that you couldn't get. You were getting it, but it's still not the way, you used to. You had to stay already in line because, it was on, how you call it, on those tickets, it was. So you had to stay in line. So if she knew you, it was a neighbor, that lived in it. So because the original food was for each, figured out 4 or 5 pieces of potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were figuring out. And if she knew you, she gave you 7. And if she didn't know, she made a little bit thing, and she gave somebody else 3 or 4 and 4, and to make up, the different what she gave, the one that she knew or whatever.
Did you know the person in charge of giving out the food?
No.
Were Jewish people?
Yeah, there were no Germans working except they came in as inspectors. We had to eat only, what the Germans brought in.
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't bring in, the 500 pounds of potatoes for the week, you wouldn't have potatoes, you would eat water. We had a neighbor, she had a kid, how long could it have been? A year, maybe 2 years. She left him in, in the house, and she went out, to get something or whatever, to work, and then there came, an attack from the Germans, and whoever was on the street, they grabbed. So they grabbed, her too. The only one thing, she was crying that were taking her, without, her baby. Her baby, I don't know, if it must have died there of starvation or whatever, that was it. First of all, even people would see it, they wouldn't take it. They couldn't do nothing for the baby. They couldn't give him to eat, they couldn't give him, what are they going to give him to drink? Water? And that without food, that they expect the baby, the baby would have been suffering. It was suffering anyway, but That what was going on. You know, we lived, on 18, on the building 18, and the building, for 16 came out. They brought out, a fellow, a young one, with his father. But his father was an old man. He couldn't, hardly move. So they said, the German, right away went over to him and took his gun and put it to his neck in the back. So the son started begging him. He said, "Take me better than you taking my father. My father's old, he's going to die, anyway." Or he said, "If you want to go, okay." So he went over to the son. He shot in the neck the son, and then he said, "No objections." He went to the old man and shot him too. If the kid was 9 years old or 10 years old, he had to go to a factory. If the parents wanted him to survive, that when they made attacks, took out people, the first ones to grab were the kids, and then the doctors they eliminated, the lawyers they eliminated, because they didn't want the intelligence to remain, because they were afraid a little bit of intelligence. And most even of the very orthodox people, they were killing them too, because they were not alphabets. They were people that knew things. My father passed away in 1942.
How did your father pass away?
Starvation.
Starvation.
But see, my father was not a heavy man, but muscle stuck. When my father was dying, we got in a doctor that he came in. My father's heart was beating, and he said that he is dead. And it beat for another half an hour, and that was it. That was our life.
When were you sent from Lutz to be deported?
That was, I was with my family in 1944, July, August. In September. September, I think the 26th.
Deportation started in Lutz, though, in 1942. How was your family able to delay being deported for 2 years?
If they would call you, you were working. So it was, not the director, the guys, the supervisors, if they said, he's goofing up, so if it came out, to be sent, they would pick the first ones. But if you had, workers that they were, good, young, didn't matter. As long as he was good, he was producing. He had a chance, everybody wished to die there, not to be killed, but to die, and he'll be buried, on the Jewish cemetery. It was tough. You asked me about, my life. I never had a bar mitzvah. I never had, I had nothing. Nothing what a human being is entitled. I didn't have nothing. Why I was punished that way, I cannot understand. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it.
It must have been very difficult.
It's too much. I couldn't believe that. It's hard to say and see how they're killing his father or his mother. Too cruel. I could never believe that people can be so cruel. I couldn't believe it.
What happened on the day you arrived at Auschwitz?
The day we arrived, we all went out from that wagon. We were put in over there, they put in about 20 all the, animals. By us, they put in a few hundred. They just pushed in. When we got over there, they took us off, and they took us, to a certain, section, not far away from the train station. And the minute we got over there, they started separating. The women separate, the men separate, For the women, they left some girls, good looking, good by size, not so short. I wanted to have a head shorter. So when we got over there, they separated right away the women and the men. Then they started separating, by the women, and the young ones, the older ones, and we were staying in line because they were separating, us. And I heard, calling me, fish, fish. And I couldn't see, who was calling me. Then I turned around, on the barrack, I saw my sister, but I didn't recognize her. Because she had shaved already her head, and she was, in the nude. And I asked her, where is her mother? She said, she doesn't even know. They separated, her from my mother.
What kind of work did you do when you were in Auschwitz?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
But did your brother have to do work since
Nothing.
he wasn't a youth?
Nothing.
No.
In Zigmar Schenau, they need, 400, people. They said, the 400 people, so you had to register that you wanted to go. Because usually before, if you used to register, to go, they used to say to work. They took you, to a gas chamber and then they finished them off. So, anyway, my brother, he registered. I came over to him in the morning, and I said, he said to Philip, they are looking for, for people, 400 people. I registered, I'm going to go. So I said, you're going to go? He said, yes. I said, I want to go too. He said, where I'm going to take you? If you're going to go over there, they'll look at you, they'll kill you. No. But I said, I don't care what they're going to do to me, I want to go. So he said, wait a little bit. So I was waiting. Then he came over and he said, okay, you're going with me. I said, what did you do? He said, I went over, I risked, and I registered myself, one more time. But not on, I registered his name was Leo, and mine was Philip, so he registered later on Philip. And he put down the age, and he said, 28. And he was 16. But how come, you say, at 28? Because nobody looked his normal, age. So, and this how I got with him. I was really appreciated, because he risked his life for me. If they would have caught him, they would have shot him right there and shot me. Because there was so much bombing that people were hiding. It was almost, a day or two before the war already. So, civilians, didn't do anything, and the soldiers were trying to run away themselves. But
Right.
they wanted, to survive. They were screaming at us, treating us like we were dirt, not human beings. But, they wouldn't hit and they wouldn't shoot. Because if to do that, they had to get an order from the Oberscharführer, to do it. Because the first Oberscharführer, when we came, was walking around, and looking at us, that wasn't even, must have been by 8, 9 o'clock, at night. He was going around with a screw, which, was holding, I don't know how they call it, that what you tighten, if you want to tighten, something, a screw. If you have here the screw and you want to tighten it, it shouldn't come out.
Mm-hmm.
You have that little thing.
The nut?
This. And he was holding it out, and he went over. If he didn't like somebody, didn't look somewhere, he hit him over the head with it. And, and the guy was bleeding. But our luck was, when they were bombing, he was the only one that got wounded.
Oh, wow.
And they had to take him away.
And
So we got in another Oberscharführer, what I said, he was a lawyer. And he was a different, person. He never killed anybody. He never gave an order, to kill nobody. So that was our luck. That bombing was our luck.
what was it like the day that the factory, well, not the factory itself, but where you were living got bombed?
But I don't think that they really hit the spot.
Mm-hmm.
But they were going around, if they were the British or they were the Russians, we have no idea. but everything was, specially built, the barracks, and the kitchen, for, because we were supposed to work. But ours went to hell. They bombed it. But the factory itself, they did not.
What happened on that day? What were people's reactions, and did anyone know what was going on?
We were in a shelter. I tried to go into the shelter too, but the power from the bombs that threw me in.
Oh, wow.
This how bad, this how close, what they were bombing, this how close they came to us. When we came outside, nothing was there. The only one thing what you saw is laying, bricks and wood, all kinds of things, but nothing else. But the most important, what we started to look, if something is left, in the kitchen, because they were cooking,
Right.
but there was nothing left either, because everything was spilled, mixed up. We couldn't even take nothing out from it.
And what were you doing in the factory that they wanted to bomb it?
We didn't do nothing. We were just working parts. We were making, let's say, we had to make those screws or whatever to fit in. That,
What kind of parts were you making?
screws.
Screws? To
Yeah.
go into what?
To put together, for bombs, not from us. They went to 3-4 other places, also camps that were working. So each one done a different part. When I worked over there as a student dienst, which means, like a cleaning person, I was, if they used to give me shirts, to wash, and then they let me, had to boil them that I shouldn't get any, any lice, things like that. And then they used to send me in, after cooking, in the German kitchen, they used to send me in, to clean up over there or to peel potatoes, for the next day. And by that sense, I had a little more food than anybody else. But the planes, that what they, came down so low and they were firing. But we were staying, like, by gates, from private houses, gardens, over there, and they were going like that.
Wow.
Right, next to our legs, that's how close they came, to fire. We found out that the war is over on May the 7th, about 6-7 o'clock, in the evening. Because they told us, the war is over, and you can go wherever, you want. And the way I heard, it was recognized that the liberation was May the 8th. But we got free May the 7th. And, I was, with my brother. Everybody started running apart because we were not, sure of it yet how it's going to be. So I was with, with my brother.
Was it the Germans that told you could leave? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, the ones that were, especially, the ones that they were elderly, and they were glad that it's over. They are able to go home.
So there was no type of battle or anything?
No. But we had to hide because, from other soldiers, just to revenge and things like that, not the, so, we were looking for a place, we were with one more friend. There were 3 of us, myself, my brother, and a friend of mine, ours, not mine. So, when they told us, that the war is over, things like that, we didn't know even, what to do. We went berserk because we were not even sure if those, the Volksdeutsch, if they're not going to kill us. Just for satisfaction, we shouldn't tell, that they were so and so. But we were looking for space and we couldn't find. Then we saw a place. It was a bank, a German bank. So we said we have no place, but we are going to go in over there, sleep over the night, at least not in the street, because in May it's still, it's not such a pleasant thing to sleep outside. And the friend of ours said he doesn't want to stay here, doesn't, he's going. So he left us. We went in, to that bank, and we looked, where to lay down, but it was cold there, May 7th, it was cold over there. So, we were looking with what we could make a little bit of fire, to warm up. And we couldn't find nothing. So we went over, to the, how they call it, where they hide the money and things like that.
Safe? The
Safe, yeah. We went over, we opened up, the safe. It wasn't even locked. And there was laying so many packages of a German mark. So my brother said, they lost the war anyway, so the mark is not worth anything. So, we were burning, to warm up. I don't know how many millions we burned, but we burned. But afterwards we were sorry, a couple of years later, because the German mark was a German mark, and you could have bought anything in the world for it. We burned millions. We could have been multi-millionaires.
Did you ever find out what happened to your sister?
Yes, they were in Camp Stutthof, and she had some friends over there, not that she made it, but they were friends. But then came, order, the same like by us, in Auschwitz, to send out the needed people, someplace to go to work. So two of her friends, and their brother was my best friend, was the best friend of my brother, because they both went to the gymnasium, high school, So it was different. When it came out, they said that they need, people. Those two friends said to my sister, Bronca, like here she would be called Bernice or Brenda or something like that. So she said, listen, we signed up, to go to work like my brother. Wouldn't you like to go with us together? She said, oh no, I'm set already here. I know what I'm supposed, she didn't want her to go. If she would have gone, she would have been alive. Because those two people that told her to go, they came out alive. But look, it's sometimes it is, for somebody, like they say, God said, this one lives and this one does not live. Why, she was, how should I say, prosecuted, from God and found guilty and to die in such a, fashion, I don't know.
Do you know how exactly she died when she was there?
Yeah, there were they killed 6,000 women, and all from the same town, from Lodz.
And this was before liberation because they didn't want them to be
That was in 1945. 2-3 days later, the Russians came in over there and they found all the bodies over there. Because the word was that they were told, from that commandant, that Oberscharführer, to kill him. Because he said the Russians are coming in. And if they are going to be alive, they're going to kill us, because they're going to tell the Russians this one was so and this one was so, and they were afraid for their own lives, so they killed 6,000 women.
It's terrible.
Yeah. And one of those 6,000 women, came, was a friend of mine's sister's, and she came out alive, only for one simple reason: when they were firing, she passed out. And all the dead bodies, what would get killed, fell on her. So this why, she was late 2 days. If it would be a little bit longer, she would suffocate. But they were saved, 12 women were saved. And one of them were a friend of, my sister. And it makes you, if she would listen to the other friends, but nobody could predict those things, that the other friends, they are not going to kill them, that it's a lie, they don't even go to work, but they're going just to shoot them to get rid of, of Jews. You didn't know. But look, that's life, that's the world, There's a lot of things you can do, nothing. You can do nothing. But I hope, I don't know. We don't see any improvement even now. It's in a different way. You hear that they kill here, they kill there, you know. It's never any peace, you know, in this world. But I don't know where my mother, I don't have the, you know, where my mother is or my sister is. She must be laying in some place, you know, with thousands of people. And I can imagine the pain my mother went when she had to go into the gas chamber. We saw, you know, the gas chamber, when you went in, you looked at the walls, they were, you know, concrete. There were such deep scratches that people were choking, you know, from the gas and things like that, and they tried to get out and they couldn't get out. Such a deep scratches you have on the walls that people tried to get out. I learned a lot, you know, before the war, you know, history, you know, things like that. Not so much on, you know, on belief, on religion, you know, like it's history, you know, Jewish, you know, history. And I saw certain things that they say that, you know, God said, you know, to Abraham, God said, he said to Jacob, and things like that. And I never could find in all those, I don't know how many years, millions of, I don't know, never could find what, you know, what God said, you know, to Jacob or to Abraham. I cannot find them. They say God said so and so, but where did it happen? How did it happen? They said that God will, you know, protect us, you know. We were 16 million and they erased, you know, 6. That was protection? Or was that punishment? How come God doesn't punish other religions, but only, you know, the Jewish religion? We are the only ones that always get punished? That we were 2,000 years, you know, how should I say it, you know, without country, spread all over, you know, the world? That's what came to me. I don't say that it doesn't exist, but I cannot believe in it. We left because we wanted to go back, you know, to Poland.
After the war, you went back to Lutz.
Yeah, we went back, but we didn't stay long.
What did you do when you were there?
My brother got into a partner with somebody, he didn't even know them, bakers. And I used to take bakery from them to supply stores. We lived on that street, the number was 65. And on 63, when I came home, you know, from work, was staying a fella boy. He must have maybe about 13 years. When I passed him, he was staying by his house. So he expressed himself very badly about Jews with the, you know, with the language. And he said, you know, not the crazy Jews, but well, I'll tell it the way he said to me. He said the Parshiva Zhidzi, the Jews, came again here. And I, in my mind, when he told that, I was ready to kill him. And then if we wanted, we were going, you know, in the German school. It was a high, you know, school, you know, like, how should I say, you know, not a public school, you know.
A private school?
Yeah, no, it was a public school, but not, you know, like you go the first 7 years. It's after you finish the
high
sixth,
school?
Yeah, the high school.
Okay. So you went to high school in Berlin?
I went to high school. I had private teachers, you know, and I cannot complain.
What did you do for fun when you went to high school in Berlin?
Oh, we played soccer. I was the captain of the team, you know. We played, you know, British soldiers we played. We played, how you call it, Germans we played. We had the manager was, you know, the trainer, not the manager, the trainer, was a German, a real German, you know, yeah. I used to remember his name, I don't remember.
Did you experience any anti-Semitism there in Germany so shortly after the war?
No, for one simple reason, you know, you couldn't, because they were not, how should I say, they were not as free as they used to be, the Germans, in the beginning of 46. I came to Poland to lodge. My brother, just time he was getting, going to get, married, and after, he was doing some business, like I said, with the bakery, and then we saw it was getting a little bit too tight, which it was only 1946. And we went over, we came to Berlin, and we were, in an UNRWA camp.
What's that?
That was how should I say, a relief, organization for the refugees, which, not just for the Jews. And after, 49, we came to the United States. Because the time came up, in 49, because, my mother's brothers, they found out that we are alive, so they sent out, how you call it, to let us in, to the state, huh?
A visa?
A visa, yeah, so we came here.
Who did you come here with?
With my brother.
With your brother?
Yeah, with my brother. After 4 months, or 5 months, I don't remember exactly, I got papers that I have to go and register with the high court, with the draft board.
Because we were in the Korean War then.
Yeah. The general from the division knew already about me, that I speak 5 languages and this and that, all kinds of things. We went to Germany back.
Okay. What did you do in Germany when you got sent back there?
If there were meetings, I used to go, if the general went, or our office went, I went with him, to explain, to translate.
So after you came back from the war, what did you do in America?
And somebody came up, a friend of theirs, not my friend of theirs, a woman, and she said to my sister-in-law and to my brother, I have somebody who wants, to sell a cafeteria. And he bought it, and he was, with a partner. And I bought with him, for partners. After 4 or 5 years, my brother, they had friends, and some friends came to him and they said, Leo, we have real estate. And so my brother figured, real estate is much better, you don't work, so hard, So he quit. He said he doesn't want to have the luncheonette, and he went in, to real estate.
What did you do after?
After, I finished, with the luncheonette, I went into the post office.
And you worked at the post office ever since?
23 years, yeah.
When did you retire from the post office?
It's already about 12 years. When was it? In 95. Yeah, in 95. 2009, that would be like 2-3 years ago, a trip in, to Poland, to lodge. But if I'm going to watch that, if it's going to be, I'm going to go. Not for any special, I'm going for good reason. Maybe I'll recognize somebody, or maybe somebody from my family will recognize me. If I'm alive, maybe he is 81, he is going to live, like me. He survived, because people were going, to Australia, to all kinds of, wherever they could run away when the war was over. When I came back to lodge in 45, and I was looking for my friends, there were so many over there, but I couldn't find anyone of them. So I don't know what happened to them, or they left, Poland, and they went to different, countries. They were maybe liberated, but I never heard of them, and I never saw them, and it's already almost 70 years, and I don't know where they are.
Wow, that must have been very difficult.
It's still difficult. It's so many years ago, it's so 60, 70 years ago. I don't remember, I'm not, that young, that my mind is still working, thank God. But not to to know what that one said, because everybody was interested in himself, because everybody wanted to survive. There wasn't a body that it isn't. But when the war ended, there were a lot they said that they survived. because they had children, they had their grandchildren, they had a wife, and when they came, he was 60 or 67, so he didn't even know where to go. And that was, and it's still, I think, until today, that, well, I judge, according to myself, but I still, that they say it was not worth it to go through that to survive.
Do you agree with that?
No.
Why have you decided to share your experiences with us?
In my mind was that I'm benefiting from it. That at least somebody is going, after I'll be gone, once in a while maybe, they'll go to that university, that they will, see a face. I'll be still alive for them.
You definitely will be.
Because I have nobody, to, how should I say, to give it away. So I figured, qualification for the schools are very big, so they're entitled to it.
Well, that's a great thing, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences with
No,
us.
I hope somebody else wouldn't have to share anymore. There were things that he went, that he or she went through. I cannot say I went through the worst person in this world. No, there were a lot of people, a lot of kids that went through 100% more than I did. And I hope that what's going on is the end. That everything, people are going to change and not stay, and not unbelieve, God is money, nothing else. But that's false, judgment. And I hope that people will wise up a little bit and see, to improve the world, to improve their own, generation, or the next one generation. That will be an honor.
Is there anything else you want to share with us and with the future generations of students that are going to see this film?
The future generations, in my mind, is the most to be educated, not just educated, but highly, educated. And if you ever believe in, the 10 Commandments, honor your mother and your father. That's all what I have to say.
This is a photograph of Philip's parents, Ita and Hurst. This is their wedding photo from 1910. Unfortunately, Hurst passed away of starvation in the ghetto, and Ita was sent to the gas chambers upon arriving in Auschwitz. This is a photograph of Philip's sister Bernice. This picture was taken shortly before the war. Unfortunately, Bernice did not survive the Holocaust. She was shot 2 days before liberation when the Nazi guards shot 6,000 women. This is a photograph of Philip in the middle with his friends who he made after the war in Lux. In this photograph, you see Philip and his brother Leon in Berlin. It was taken in 1946. This is a photograph of Philip with his friends from school in Germany. It was taken after the war. This is a photograph of Philip in 1945, shortly after the war. This picture shows Philip's brother Leon and his wife Terry in 1945. This is a picture of Philip with his nephew Henry in 1947. The picture was taken in Germany. This photo from 1952 or 1953 also shows Henry, a little bit older, with his baby sister Iris. Iris, unfortunately, has passed away. This is called a certificate of incarceration. It lists the camps that Philip was sent to and why he was sent there. It lists as the reason J, Jude. This document is a declaration of intention. a document in which Philip changed his name from Freid to Philip Freid. It also states what he was doing in America and what he intended to do here. These are 3 letters given to Philip Freid by his superiors in the United States Army. They were given to him at the end of his service in commemoration for all of his hard work and dedication to the United States Army. This is a picture of Philip Freid today, when he recently went to Poland to visit his family's grave. He had this grave marker built after the war to say the names of all his family members that died during the Holocaust. His father, who died of starvation in the ghetto, his mother, who was sent to the gas chambers in Auschwitz, and his sister, who was shot. Though his sister's and mother's bodies were never found, his father rests at this gravestone.